Hello there, people of the world. Please do me a huge favor and hit the like and subscribe button to continue supporting my channel. Today I'm going to be doing an installation and review of the SW-Motech Ion footrest kit. I purchased this kit directly from SW-Motech, and I really liked it because it was a little bit more off-road oriented than the stock foot pegs. It has a removable rubber footrest. It has a pretty grippy surface and a wider platform for your feet, and in theory will make it easier to stand on the bike. And it can also be mounted in the stock position or about 15 millimeters lower, which I was hoping would benefit my tall frame. But really what motivated me to buy it was I've been taking longer trips and finding myself wandering more and more onto gravel roads. And as a newish dirt bike rider, I've started to understand the benefits of standing to give you better control in off-road situations. And even though these are really mellow off-road situations, standing on the stock foot pegs is just really uncomfortable, slippy, and loose. And, standing also looks super cool, so especially on a Triumph Scrambler. Non-motorcycle people think these are great off-road bikes, and so it always impresses the crowd when you can be up and standing on the pegs. But in reality, they're sort of overblown cruisers, really heavy and not great for off-road, so it actually makes standing even more important in order to better control the bike. Well, without further ado, let's jump right into the installation. This is the peg surface. I will replace this. It's a lot grippier, should be good for standing, riding dirt. There's an optional rubber pad in the bag that you can mount on top. I'll play around with that and see how much of a difference that makes. And it's a complete kit here, so this is gonna replace the one in there. And you can see there's two holes, so you can mount it in a lowered position or a standard height position. And I'm very tall, so I'm going to run it low and see if that helps with my kind of hip alignment as I'm riding. It might give me a little bit more of a roomy feel. So looks like it's pretty straightforward hardware wise. It reuses the existing springs and pegs, and I've got a problem where my bottom C-clip that goes on that usually falls off, although the pin hasn't been popping out, and I've been using a zip tie, but one of these days I'll get the right one. And so let's have at it here. So this would be the standard height configuration. This would be the lowered height configuration. And so there's some hardware, so I'm going to slap this together. Do have some old blue Loctite. So when you use this Loctite, this is old Loctite. I don't know how much is in here, but it's still squeezy. That's a good sign. Get a little. There we go. Just do a little bit on there. It's probably more than I need, but and I'm going into this lowered configuration, so that's higher up hole. Normally I would have a little cloth here to wipe this off, but so and I kind of wind this on until it gets to the keyed part, and then I just want to make sure I get it slotted correctly. Yeah, there we go. This has an R on it, so we're on the right side. That's good. Good news. And there. So now, let's see, that bolt is a little too long to fit in there before. That's a good, see if it bottoms out. If it does, I might have to customize in air quotes. But no, it's not going to bottom out. So what I'm going to do is get myself a 13 mil wrench. Luckily, I've got some metrics in this bag. I have a hodgepodge since I work on some stuff that's SAE, some stuff that's metric. SW-Motech is German. Might be why they're metric. Just going firm, hand tight. And then if I decide to run those rubber pads, I can put them on afterward, but this will be sort of where the magic happens. Don't want to lose my spring orientation. I'll line that back up there. These are not fitting super lovely, I must admit. This one does say L, that one says R. But it's kind of hitting on the back of this a little more than I would normally enjoy. Okay, it's gonna need some grinding. Not what I expected from the great folks at SW-Motech, but you just see, so I'm gonna have to grind the back off of these. One thing I've learned is that when you run into trouble, sometimes you have to get a victory before going back to the problem. So I moved over to the left side and pulled the pegs off, and the new SW-Motech peg fit on the left side much better. Looked like, in fact, perfect. No modifications needed. You can see I have the base in place right here using the original pin and spring, and I'm just test fitting the actual foot peg, and it has those two positions, but as I mentioned, I'm going to run it in the low position. Put a dab of Loctite on the bolts to secure it in place, and the left side went on smooth and was just the victory I needed to continue back to the right side. So I was able to do some filing the back side of this foot peg and get it in. It's a little bit looser now, it goes up and down. So a couple things left. One is I didn't have a circlip for this, and so I have a stock of circlips at my shop, but in the meantime, this seems to do the job pretty well. And this is just a zip tie, and I just get as much tension on it as I can. A littler zip tie would be better, but this is all I had laying around. Get it really close. There we go. Always remember to clip your excess ties. And then the last piece of business on here is to add a little spacer to the bottom here. In here. Yeah, it is a little high. So one thing I could shave more is I could file the back of this section in here if I really was feeling like I wanted to do something like that. Last but not least, they make this rubber footbed insert. It sits down pretty good in there. I think it's comical that I'm putting Loctite on everything except the pin that holds the whole thing to the bike, which you wouldn't put Loctite on, but should have a circlip. And instead of a circlip, I put a zip tie. So very concerned about keeping everything in place except like the most important piece of this whole thing. And then finish it up on the box wrench side. There we go. And take you to the other side, and in case you guys don't have a motorcycle cat, I highly advise you get one. And there's the other side. So we're all set with the SW-Motech pegs. The only thing left is a test ride. So this initial test ride had the rubber pads installed on the top. Shifting felt really good and natural, pretty much the same as the standard foot pegs. And the platform did feel a little bit wider and give a little bit more comfortability. So when I did finally get up and try standing, it did feel a little bit more stable. I can't really say that the pegs felt any lower. Even though they were supposedly in the lower position, but really with those rubber pads on top, I think any gain you get from the 15mm drop is sort of negated. But as I mentioned, the standing felt pretty good, even though of course riding on the road here. But I decided to bring the bike back home and take the rubber inserts out and give that a go to see how that felt. So after pulling the rubber inserts off, now I'm just riding with the bare metal pegs. And I noticed a couple of things right off the bat. First of all, at least with the current boots I'm riding, these Air Ninja cars, the pegs themselves felt very grippy. And when I stood up, they were super stable. It felt much more like riding my dirt bike. The boots would just grab right into the pegs. And the second thing that I found is that in the seated position, it actually felt a little bit more difficult to move my foot forward and down to shift. The pegs themselves maybe felt a smidge lower than the stock ones at this point, but the grip was so good that I actually had to lift my boot a little bit more than before in order to shift. I don't think that's going to be an issue. I think that's going to just be something that is more of a learn and figure it out type of thing. So I'm not too worried about that. And overall, I was really happy with the pegs without the rubbers in them, and that's how I'm going to plan to run them. So as you can see, the stock peg height here as it relates to the brake pedal. And here's the SW-Motech peg with the rubber installed. It does look a little bit lower in this picture. And then here's with the rubber removed, and you can see it's like a dead even height with the brake pedal, so it is a little bit lower. And that is my install and review of the SW-Motech foot pegs. For me, I think they were a worthwhile investment at about $140. They will give me that extra stability riding in gravel and standing. I think I can learn to live with a little bit more stickiness when I shift. That'll become second nature. Curious to see how they feel if it's a little bit damp, but I imagine they'll be okay. And I think, it didn't really feel like it dropped the peg super low or anything, so I don't think I'm going to feel that change in my hip angle too much, but that's okay. That was really just a secondary benefit I was looking for. But I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you have any questions, please drop them in the comments section. I'm happy to answer them. And if I end up modifying the right side peg any further too, I might do a little short video on that, but I think for now I'm pretty happy. So Happy motoring, keep the two wheels on the ground, ride safe everybody, and until next time, this is the second half of life.